Ha.
Hey, security peeps. We have the crew here today. I am super excited. I'm Renee Small. This is the Breaking Into Cybersecurity podcast special edition. And we have fabulousness in the building today. We have some of my friends, dear friends. First of all, let me introduce my co-host, Chris Foulon. Say hi to everyone.
Hey, everyone.
So everyone probably already knows that Chris, even though he's like a mini recruiter, even though he's a cyber person, he's the one always connecting us with people. So that's Chris. Chris also is doing career coaching and all that good stuff. Then I'm going to go to the middle. Danny Barker. Say hi to everybody, Danny.
Hello.
Danny is recruiter extraordinaire down in Dallas, right?
Yes.
Dallas, Texas, and she recruits for all over the place. So we work together closely. Love Danny. I got my buddy, my pal, my brother from another mother, Leighton Holcomb. Say hey to everyone, Leighton.
Hello.
So Leighton is here, and we have worked together. Leighton, as you all know, probably, and if you haven't, does a ton of recruiting, has been in this space, in the cybersecurity space for forever. And then third brother from another mother, Alex Henry. Say hi to everyone, Alex.
Hey, good afternoon, all.
So Alex is a cyber recruiter that I met back when we were working together at Verizon. So this is the dream team of cybersecurity recruiters, and we are here to answer all your questions because we want to help you get opportunities. So if any recruiter wants to jump in before the questions start coming with any tips that you have, anything that as a recruiter you see and you want people to know as they're looking during these tumultuous times, jump in and just shoot and let us know, give us some examples of things that recruits need to know as they're going through this process. Anybody?
Yeah, I would just, I'll start it off. I would say at this point, to really focus on industries that are, unfortunately thriving in this time, right? So there are a lot of industries right now that need people more than ever. So maybe it's not directly related to the industry that you are coming out of, but give some other industries that are now kind of hiring heavy a shot, and there may be some opportunities within those spaces.
Yep. Great points, especially like Amazon. There's some industries and some organizations that are just hiring in droves.
Instacart's hiring in droves. So while they're hiring personal shoppers, they'll probably also need cyber people to ensure their infrastructure as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, Amazon is hiring recruiters. I know that. They've reached out to some of us more than once. One thing I would that keeps coming up from hiring managers, number one problem when people, the newer folks that are wanting to break into cybersecurity, you are tempted to embellish. It will not get you a job. You will be found out. You will be vetted out. Don't embellish. Share everything that you've done, especially if you've got a virtual lab on the side, that you've done programming, any type of programming, web or otherwise, any scripting that you've done, any Python that you've learned, especially issues like Python and subdomains of cyber that you have expertise in that you don't list on your resume, like CyberArk and some of the firewalls. Like some people have been in firewall forever, but they don't mention that they've done Palo Alto for 4 or 5 years. And if you say that will get you jobs that I know of. It'll get you a look quicker by those that are looking for those. And we do still look at keywords. So don't embellish. Tell the truth. Even if you're below what's being asked for, if you're a truth teller and you have another thing, online, if your social media footprint shows you as being negative constantly, you'll be in trouble when it comes time to
Amen.
make a hiring decision. Yep. Stay positive, even if you're not.
That is such a good point. Chris and I talked about that last week.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Chris, you want to tell your story?
Yeah. I saw someone that was constantly saying that they weren't getting good calls. So I reached out and I offered them the ability to spend 30 minutes to do a mock interview, to look over their resume and propose a time that I was free, and that would still be appropriate for their time zone. And they were like, oh no, that's the time recruiters call me to give me bad news. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to offer you help. So if you want it, I could give it to you. And you're like, oh no, I'm too busy right now. I'm like, okay, works for me.
Yeah, so if we're trying to help you out, if we see you out there kind of flailing around and we're offering to help, we really do want to help. That's why we're all here. We're taking the time out to help out the community. So the questions are coming in. Oswald is asking, I'm looking for a job related to privacy and data protection. Finished the MSc in Tilburg, NL. I don't know.
It sounds like his master's in computer science in Holland, it looks like.
Okay, and that's law and tech. So I don't know if anyone is working on anything internationally. I know we're all US based, but any tips for him?
Well, I'll start off by saying security and compliance surrounding privacy data is big right now. You have GDPR. A lot of companies don't understand that. With the push to telemedicine, you're going to have healthcare providers that are going to need guidance on how to do that and how to stay in compliance there. So it's definitely becoming a major thing. It's been in Europe for several years, and then now in the States, you have Washington, California, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, that are all coming out with their own privacy laws. So if that's your area of specialty, put yourself out there. But it's a very special niche, so you have to keep that in mind when you're looking for roles.
Sweet. And he is in the Netherlands. That's what NL stood for.
I will say there are a number of jobs that are going to be coming ripe in the GCC region, especially in Dubai. And I personally won't handle those, but I have friends that do. And so they are available. They're interested in people like you. So you may want to reach out generically to us and ask for an introduction to someone that is looking for your type of person.
Sweet. Oswald, connect with Leighton. Then Alicia Kunda says, got a master's degree, however, no experience and not getting any feedback on my job applications. And he's a junior cybersecurity consultant. Any tips for him?
You may need to take a help desk position to begin with, preferably at a large company that offers those types of positions, so that you get seen and noticed for your hard work, and then move horizontally and vertically through a company. To start out in cyber, I've got 4 boys. The third son, the second and third one did have trouble both breaking in. Second son, he just had to stay at it, and he kept moving. He'd get a job and he'd move. Preston won't mind me sharing about him. He would move before going through a full life cycle of showing his abilities. In other words, by a life cycle, I mean a full year. Stay wherever. If you do get an entry-level job, stick with it. Eat noodles for a year. Show your ability to stay somewhere and go through what I call a full life cycle on dealing with stuff, getting a review by your peers and also those that you report to, and being able to show that you've been able to stick at something and learn what works and what doesn't work. preferably from a large corporation, and then move sideways in that corporation or offer your skills elsewhere. But these folks that move every 3 months, hiring managers, even though it's sort of common to do that, hiring managers still, even though they see it as being common, they have a hard time interviewing people that have moved 6 times in 2 years.
I'd also add, in order to be effective to secure an infrastructure, you have to know how it works. So just knowing the theory of how to secure something, but not having any actual experience in that sort of technology or that sort of infrastructure, makes it harder for you to describe how you would tackle a situation or how you would walk into a situation. So I think that's why Leighton's recommendation is so valid. So transitioning from another role in IT, it becomes easier, unless if you're going to try to break fresh in, it's likely not going to be a technical role. It would be a marketing role. It would be a policy role. It would be something where having background knowledge isn't critical.
In addition, if you do try to go for one of those analyst positions, I would recommend highly, definitely having your own setup at home. You need to be able to talk to whatever it is they're asking for if you want to go that route, because there are some roles that are out there, but you got to think about how much competition there is for those handful of cybersecurity analyst positions. So if a huge company like a GE or an Amazon or one of these really big companies have those entry-level roles out there, you're competing against hundreds of people. So, it's definitely not an easy road. People have gotten through it. That's why we have this podcast. We've heard from people who have actually broken in and gotten into a cybersecurity role directly. However, it took them months. It took a long time. They networked. They went to all kinds of conferences, online and off. Well, now it's all online. So your online conferences, heavy networking in the community. It just is not an easy road, and unfortunately, just having the education is not the, the be all end all. So, okay.
Yeah. I was just going to add, utilize LinkedIn as much as you can, right? So if you're not networking heavy on LinkedIn, make sure to do that. Join groups, find someone in the space that you're interested in and, reach out to them. You might be able to get a mentor that way. But you can't stop networking. It's, especially in this day and age, LinkedIn is really how you're going to reach, from coast to coast, the folks that are in your space and potentially can help you out.
And don't forget about Twitter as well. There's a lot of subculture roles that, if you're in the scene, will only be advertised on Twitter. Especially for those in pen testing, application testing, you'll find that some of those companies only post their roles on Twitter to their following and not on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and most people need to understand that LinkedIn's not the end all be all, even though we're on it quite a bit. There are so many different avenues. There's the Dallas Geek Meet. I'm actually located in Dallas, and I feel free to send me a connection request, anyone on this podcast. But in Dallas, we have the Dallas Geek Meet. We've got cybersecurity different meets as well. Once, we can start meeting in person, but we do have online things. But do not expect that you are just going to jump into a $300,000 cybersecurity role. That's not going to happen. You need the experience. So everybody has to start somewhere, and don't give up. You still keep applying, keep interviewing, be positive, and link together. This is what cybersecurity is all about, is we all link together, and this is why we're trying to help everybody with understanding the different rows of going in and out of trying to work through it.
Great point, Danny. Another thing I wanted to add in, Alicia K, she says she's in a similar position, except she does security testing in her QA engineer role. And what I wanted to add on is, if you are making a lateral move or if you are in a company and you're like, I can't just, I went and I got a master's, I'm sitting as a developer, I'm sitting as some other role, a QA person, and you can't just quit your job and go either take an entry level job or quit your job. You know, you need to make somewhat of a lateral move, because that's a lot of people in the space right now. You definitely want to continue to do work on the side. So all of those side projects, anything you could pick up, and, you know, go volunteer in the security department of your company. Go volunteer at nonprofits and churches and these people that need security help. There's people out there that now they really know it. they need the help. And any of that volunteer work helps build up your resume so that you actually can say you touch and you did the thing. You're not talking about it in theory. You did it. You did whatever it is that you can put on your resume to say, you know, yeah, I'm a QA tester in a day, but at night and on the weekends, this is all the additional work that I'm doing. So that's just another tip for this, you know, trying to get in there.
And on a similar subject, there's like hack the boxes that you can show that you have experience in. There's bug bounties for those that like to get down deep in code, that you can show your worth by saying these are the amounts of bug bounties that you've solved and things like that. And that's public, because you show in the ranking and you show the number of bugs that you solved. So if you're applying for that type of role, that shows that you have experience in that field.
Yep. Okay, so tons of questions. Okay, Ajo says, is this time even worth it to seek an entry-level cybersecurity opportunity? I know they're very hard to find, if not almost impossible. What are your thoughts? Also, for an entry-level candidate to get an entry-level cyber analyst or SOC analyst role, what should I do for certs? Working on my Security Plus now, already have almost 3 years on the IT operations side.
Well, if you have 3 years on IT operations after Security Plus, I'd go after a SSCP. It's on the way to a CISSP, and if you've got the years behind you, at least a year of experience, I would go after that next as a step between Security Plus and the CISSP down the road, which is at 5 years or more of experience. There are all types of areas that you can, subdomains of cybersecurity. I didn't bring my subdomain map with me today to throw up on the screen, but we can all attest to the fact that there are so many different ways that you can go besides just pen testing or help desk. You can get into a SOC to begin with as a junior SOC analyst. Those are getting set up all over the planet. Everybody's setting up SOCs these days, or they call them different things, fusion centers and innovation centers. Everybody's got, larger companies do have them, that they're setting up the MSSPs out there. And so watch for those other jobs. You can do virtual meetups also. Right now, everybody's distancing themselves, but these social meetups that are available, even training academies. There's one in Colorado Springs, and they have an offshoot in Tampa and a couple other cities. Those training academies, some of them are very friendly, even if you can't afford to attend them and get certs through them. They will network with you. Some of their members will network with you, some of their trainers, and invite you to virtual workshops to where you meet others that are employed, and you can ask about what's available. The rubbing elbows with others that are in the field that understand your pain is absolutely necessary. Don't do this alone.
Yes, he's absolutely right. Okay, tons of questions coming in. Jeremiah Parker says, Christopher, I definitely take the help. LOL, I'm not too busy. I realize I don't have experience. And he's making a point about you reaching out to people when the people were, you know, we were saying they were angry. He's saying he has some education, spent his life learning, working from home help desk jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And he's currently working at FedEx as a package handler part-time. So, you know, he's getting super discouraged too. So be encouraged, folks. Be encouraged. China Haley is saying, I'm a fresher in the Cyber Nation in the Dallas area. So, Danny, this is one for you. I have educational experience looking for entry level in the governance, risk, and compliance space. So, pretty much same questions. How does she get in? So we kind of gave you that. Andrew Miller, been in IT since 98, almost all in Asian companies. How far should you list experience on resumes for the US market? Who wants to take that one?
It depends on the job. I would have more than one resume regarding the amount of experience you have. If you've got more than 20 years, say 17 plus. I like odd numbers. If you've got more than 20 years experience, don't say that you've got 32, because there are some folks that behave badly as recruiters, and it won't help you to list, I've got 32 and a half years. I would not list more than 15 unless it asks for it. If it says 20 plus years of experience, I'd put that. If it says 15 years of experience, I'd put 15 plus. And then let them find out the rest after they interview you. Don't go too far past what they're asking for. Just put a plus after it. That way you're not embellishing. You're not fabricating anything. Just put that plus on there to do the best you can to get somebody's attention.
I would also add to that too. If it's more than the 15, definitely put additional. If you have 2 pages is really enough for your resume, and any additional roles you can put at the bottom, additional experience, something so that people don't think like it just ends at 15. But if you're going back to 1982, you don't need to list every single, I was a graduate, I did an analyst job in Price Waterhouse in 1984, and all those jobs. Sometimes people list them all out. That's unnecessary. So
yeah, me personally, I have 25 years of remote experience in recruiting, and when someone talks to me about being a contract recruiter for them, I just tell them I have 10 plus. And I leave it at that. People look at 25 years and how in the world did he work remotely for 25 years? That's impossible. Well, they're wrong, but I'm not out to prove people wrong. I'm out to assist in recruiting good candidates. And so if I see that I want to work with somebody and they want 8 years of experience, I'll put 10 plus and 10 plus remote, and then let it go at that.
Cool. So Hubert says, I developed exploitation on embedded systems and enterprise systems to teach engineers how exploitation takes place to increase awareness. The question is, what kind of job should he apply to? Exploitation on embedded systems and enterprise systems to teach engineers how exploitation takes place to increase awareness.
I'll jump on that one. You can look at malware analysis. You can look at IR, because you want to be able to follow the thread where things are going. Reverse engineering, pen testing. Those are the types of roles where you would likely get access to an embedded system, and especially in the ICS field, you have a lot of companies that have embedded systems and industrial control systems that you can try to attack. So that would probably be my advice.
Cool. Raphael says, any advice for transitioning into cybersecurity leadership roles? I have 2 masters involved in medical device security, numerous cyber certs, but find some role descriptions list just about every item in cybersecurity. I'll take that one. So, Raphael, you are right. Some of these roles do list a zillion different criteria, and they want every skill under the sun. So the goal would be to really hone in on companies where you think your experience is needed. So if you're involved in medical device security, then which companies either have medical devices, maybe some of your prior clients, if you were in a consulting company, I'm not sure, but really, really targeting your search, because especially if, it's really easy to transition when you're doing medical device security and the person needs someone to do medical device security. It's going to be trickier when you're or going into a leadership role, like maybe some medical device companies' first CISO, or their first deputy CISO, or what have you, some leadership director level role, or something in the medical industry as a whole. It's going to be trickier if you took that experience and say try to get like a leadership role in the automotive industry or something like that. So people tend to like people that have the industry experience. If you've worked on one of their competitors' products or something like that, they're going to be all over you. So think about all the medical device security, the products that you worked on, and then figure out kind of like, reverse engineer how to get to their competitors, and then how to get into any other medical. I would target the medical industry as a whole.
Yeah, and I would just add to that you probably want to focus on medium-sized companies, right? Because jumping into a leadership role in enterprise is probably not going to happen. So look for companies that are, maybe 1,000 employees less, where you can get that leadership experience, 3-4 years there, and then, ultimately jump into some enterprise level if that's kind of the path that you have set for yourself.
So Ajo asks also one more question. Can you flourish in cyber without programming and or coding? I'm one of those rare candidates who personally hates coding.
I'd say it's surprisingly not rare. I'm one of those, not much of a coder. So, I mean, you can focus on risk assessment, you can focus on policy, you can focus on training, you can focus on consulting, you can focus on marketing, communications within cyber. There's so many different things that you can focus on that doesn't involve coding. But with industry trends going to everything as a code, infrastructure as a code, networking as a code, it will become beneficial to at least understand how some of the coding languages work.
A lot of people don't understand, but there are some transferable skills like in GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. And some of those people are not technical, as Christopher was talking about. So, you might want to kind of delve into that as a opportunity to, if you don't like coding, that's something to really look into.
Auditing,
yeah. And then if you're in financial, an audit, that is actually a transferable skill that you can get into cybersecurity as well.
Many SOC analysts don't even have to code these days because as long as you can follow through the alerts through the system, you don't have to do any coding. You just have to know what the logs are telling you.
I lost my thought. Okay, somebody, Amy, wants to know, what about students entering the workforce? So Amy, we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier about people trying to break in as a whole. Leighton said, jump in from a help desk perspective. We also talked about the cybersecurity analyst roles and really heavily networking in the industry. So we got through a ton of questions. There's a lot of chatter on here. If there are any more questions, Ish Pete says, what about, well, it's the same thing. What about entry-level work experience without work experience? Ish Pete, we talked about it. When this is over, jump back in and listen to a bunch of our points on this, but really heavily networking on LinkedIn and making sure you're doing your volunteer efforts in cybersecurity. Make sure that you have your home network set up and that you're really touching the keyboard. Like, we don't want theory. Hiring managers don't want theory. They want someone who actually is doing this stuff. So even at a super entry level, the smallest project you can find, do it.
I would also say find companies that you like and follow them. Some of the bigger companies within cybersecurity have their own communities built around them, Discord channels, Slack channels, underground communities like that you find out from following them. And by participating in those communities, you build that relationship and that network that will help you get in the door.
Yeah.
I'd like to chime in about the importance of having a good, clean resume. I've noticed like some of the some people think that you have to put a lot of, I call it jazz hands on it, just too much stuff and pictures and, things. I will tell you from, someone who works with, name an ATS, an applicant tracking system. I pretty much have worked with it. As a recruiter, we look at thousands of resumes. It needs to be clean and scannable. And if it doesn't scan, you're going to get, no one's going to call you. So please make sure that your resumes are really clean. I recommend a good company or, a professional to really look at your resume, or if you have a recruiter who has time, have them look at your resume and spend that time to put forth, because you want to make sure that your foundation is good, and you have all that pertinent information and it scans correctly, so that when the algorithms scan it, you will be up at the top. So even if it's an entry-level position, it helps us, because I know I get aggravated when I have to look all over a resume to try and find the key information on that resume. So your resume needs to be catered for each position that you're applying to as well. Some probably one of the best one in the industry is Velvet Jobs. I highly recommend going to them. And they also have a lot of jobs posted as well. So, I know Renee's awesome, and Christopher and Alex and Leighton, but we're only so many. So I recommend jumping in and, if you guys have time, get somebody else to help.
Awesome, Danny. How to get recruiters to call you back when you've mentioned interest in a job they posted? Wolfgang, our friend Wolfgang, he was on the podcast some time ago. Go ahead, Leighton.
If you have our phone number, text us at about 4:30 our time, 4:30 Central, 5 o'clock Central, 5:30 Central, whatever those times in the time zone that a recruiter is in. We do see your texts, and we will eventually get back a hold of you, especially if you keep asking. We're very busy people. I've got 600 cybersecurity jobs that I have access to, more than that actually. And a lot of people are asking for help. We can't get to everybody. I work on Saturday mornings. If you text me on a Saturday morning, more than likely, I'm going to call you back on early Saturday. That's when my phone on incoming is not ringing, and I do a lot of call outs, a lot of talking to people, initiating discussions on Saturday when it's quiet.
Wolfgang, I hope I responded to your email.
And for those that are worried about with COVID happening, and there's a lot of stopping for looking for jobs, don't think that's true, because there's a lot of companies that are switching to being remote and are looking for more people specifically for that. Not to mention, you have a lot of government and not-for-profit that are looking for additional assistance for volunteers. If you have extra time, they're willing to have volunteers to help during this time, because they've lost people that couldn't have helped before. So there's always ways to get experience. You just have to be creative in looking for them.
Yeah, go ahead, Leighton.
Speaking of remote, right now, a lot of positions that are listed as on-site will temporarily be remote. If you insist on coming on remote and staying remote, you will probably not get access to that position. Right now, employers are wise. Most of them are wise. They understand the exposure issues. And if they need somebody on, especially in the federal sector, in the past, most recent past, the federal sector has been very rigid on most jobs about bringing people in remotely. Right now, they aren't necessarily as rigid as they have been, and they will look at whether or not they can bring somebody on remotely for a few weeks to several weeks, and get them on board, get them trained, so that when things loosen up, then you can go on site. But if you're insisting on being remote right out of and I've seen this way too much, right out of school, you want to be remote, unless you're a king pen tester, those remote jobs right out of college are very, very hard to find.
Yeah, I was going to also add in, and we'll probably do this on another one of these podcasts, but really talking about really having this community, the folks that are out there, do kind of interviewing strategies, because it's a different ball game now that you're all home. Everyone is on Zoom calls and on Google Meets and what have you. And so getting prepared and situating yourself so that you look and sound professional on camera, and that you can keep eye contact, and, you know, just having that presence, that virtual presence, is key as well as you interview during these times, which many of you may not have ever done. So, you know, just thinking about what's happening in the background of your, you know, your office or your home office or your bedroom or wherever you are, you know, quietly trying to take that call, and what's going on around behind you that could potentially be distracting. Again, keeping eye contact, things like that, making yourself very presentable to and very professional to your future employer, is something that I'm hoping that we can dive into as we do more of these. If you all like these, which it seems like hopefully you do, and provide that kind of detail as well. So I know we are, Charles says, thanks for the practical advice. Charles always chimes in. So we are 35 minutes in, a little over 35 minutes in. And it looks like we have gotten through almost all of the questions that are here. So I want to be cognizant of my team members' time. And wow, we get a couple of things saying that Raphael says virtual first impression. Dr. Schuyler says, you'd be surprised how many still request face-to-face interviews. I don't know who's requesting a face-to-face interview in a pandemic. That's kind of interesting. So in any event, any final keys or tips of success for folks? I will start with Leighton.
Do not get discouraged. I like to use my sons as example of, and I'll use this one, and I'll say the name of the company, even though I recruit, most of my time is devoted to SAIC right now. Devin, who's also a recruiter with me at my agency, he's going through online training with WGU for his bachelor's degree in cyber, and he got a Security Plus, and he's got an SSCP. And he was able to get an internship with IBM, and he's going to move across the country this June to go ahead and work with them for 3 months. And while he's there, he's going to be looking for a job in Austin. One thing, don't assume that because things are the way they are with social distancing, that those type of internships and opportunities will disappear. IBM, who recently, like a year and a half ago, they took a lot of the remote workers and went back brick and mortar with them again. But with this particular internship for Devin, they've decided to offer it remotely. And so they're going to, instead of dumping it, they've found a way to hang on to their interns. And so people are becoming more flexible. My guess is there will be a lot more remote jobs this coming year after this problem subsides than there were in previous years. This kind of problem is not going to go away forever. It'll come. We will have another flu season, and wise folks know that. And so they're going to be taking and transitioning permanently as many of their jobs as possible.
I agree with that. I think I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she said, whenever there's something that happens like this, it never shifts back to how it was. So some building that had, you know, thousands of employees in it, now the employees have been working remotely for how many ever months. Does it make sense to have that, to be paying that you know, that real estate for those employees doing this work when they could easily be cutting that cost and having people at home? So I'm really curious as to what it looks like when this is all said and done, and there will be more remote opportunities. In addition to Leighton's point, some of the companies that I'm working with right now too definitely are having remote internships, and definitely are still actively hiring remote and on site. Some of them are essential and do have to be on site, but there are opportunities out there. I'll echo what Leighton said. Definitely just keep going, keep connecting with folks on LinkedIn, stay positive, reach out to all of us. Seems like we're having fun, so we're going to do this again. And make sure that you are, it's just pure attitude. Like, it's just know that you're going to get through this, know that we're all going to get through this, and know that we will have, there are opportunities out there. It's just finding the right one and finding the right fit for you. Chris wants to jump in.
I was just going to say, use this time to brush up on your skills. So while you're looking for another role, use Cybrary, use many of the other massive online communities that provide that educational platform, Peerless, Udemy. Brush up on your skills, keep current. Don't use this as downtime, especially if you're looking for a role. So be productive and make that your job to brush up yourself while looking for another job.
Good point.
Yeah, and I would just say, to wrap it up, millennials, this is what you guys have been doing for years, right? Tech heads, using technology to talk to each other from here to across the globe. So, take advantage of the skills that you've gained over the years, and I'm sure you'll be able to put it into good use with a company shortly. So just again, keep your head up.
And I'd like to contribute that, work on your resume, have it updated, do not embellish it, because you will be found out, as Leighton said. We're recruiters. We know how to find information about you. But now is the time to work on your game plan. Have that foundation ready. Have your list of companies you want to target. Keep a list of where you're applying, where you're interviewing, and you will actually see your progression as well, and realize how much work you've put into it, and you will have a sense of pride. But also, don't give up. You keep going, as we say in the military, until your cheeks are in a seat. And so you keep going. You're going to keep going and applying, and think of it as dating. You're going to be courted by a company. You're going to get dumped. You're going to get a lot of dumps. And then you're going to have companies you're like, you're going to dump them because it's not the right opportunity for you. So just view it as a courtship, going back and forth, and keep an open mind of exploring different opportunities, and keep going, and the right one will come.
Awesome advice. So I want to wrap it all up by saying we will be doing these again, because there's way too many questions in here. So look out for us again, this team. I'm saying this as I volunteer everybody once again. Look out for this team to come together to help the community. We will have a link that if anybody wants to apply to, or dump their resume, put their resume out there for us to take a look at for our various opportunities that we are all connected to. We're going to provide a link in the chat in the as I'm going to edit this post and put a link on there. We will do this again soon, probably early next week, I'm thinking. And I just want to thank everyone, for all the recruiters here, for your time, all of the folks that asked questions, for all of your awesome questions. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.